Freeland, a former deputy prime minister, former finance minister, some other high-profile roles. I want to thank you so much for making time for us tonight.
It is great to be here with you, Bruce.
Critics would point out, that you have been kind of shoulder to shoulder with Mr. Trudeau for his whole tenure, really, as prime minister. And it's clear Canadians are looking for a change. So why would they choose you to get that change?
Well, first of all, I will point out, Bruce, I was the one minister who had the gumption to resign.
Sure.
And that was a hard thing to do, and it was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that I am here in Halifax talking to some great Liberals and asking them to choose me to be the next Liberal leader and the next Prime Minister is because we are at an existential moment for our country. I take the threat that Donald Trump poses to our country extremely seriously. It's actually the thing that really drove my decision to step down from government. It was the central theme of my campaign launch. And I know that at this critical moment, I am the person who can stand for Canada and fight for Canada. I have the experience. I did it before. And I have the guts to do it again.
There's a whole bunch of things I want to ask you about Donald Trump and where that goes. But first, let's get into the leadership perception. Because what we're seeing is, what we're hearing from the pollsters is that your party is gaining ground, which is great. But it seems to be gaining ground if Mark Carney is the leader. So what do you make of that?
Well, I would disagree with that. Yeah. I think there is a whole energy, a new energy in the Liberal Party right now, and that is wonderful. We now have 400,000 Liberal members. That is a great thing.
Sure.
And I think what has really energized Liberals is people are recognizing that this is such a crucial moment for Canada, and they are recognizing that our party is the party to fight for Canada. They're also recognizing, by the way, Pierre Poilievre is not the guy who can do it. He is maple syrup Maga. All he wants to do is imitate Trump, and I don't think Canadians trust him to stand up to Trump. And so I think that's giving us a lot of energy, and that's why I'm really putting myself forward as the person, as the woman who can do it.
Let's get in the weeds a little bit about Trump, because, and this is fascinating, he has said publicly he just doesn't like you. Now, under normal circumstances, that would be kind of funny, but this is a high-stakes thing here.
I think that is the best campaign ad I could ever have, that President Trump knows who I am. He knows I'm a tough negotiator. He knows I got a great deal for Canada last time. I mean, remember last time he was president, he threatened to rip up NAFTA, and there was a lot of shouting, a lot of kicking and screaming, and at the end of the day, he actually got a better deal than we had to start with. He also threatened steel and aluminum tariffs and, in fact, imposed them on us in 2018 when I was in charge of leading Canada through it. And the Americans, a few months later, unilaterally lifted those tariffs. So I know how to get the job done. I know that it takes strength and a plan and fortitude. That's why Donald Trump knows who I am, and that's why I'm the best next leader of the Liberal Party.
What do you make of his comments about annexing Canada? I mean, the first term he was worried about getting reelected. This is it for him, presumably. So, some of the threats are kind of off the table right now. How serious is he about?
Oh, I think that threats to our sovereignty we have to take extremely seriously. I don't think we can laugh this off as any kind of a joke.
Right.
The president has repeated these threats. He has said he will use economic coercion to force us to negotiate.
Right.
And I think we as a country need to be extremely clear that capitulation is not a negotiating strategy, that Canada is not for sale, that our sovereignty is not negotiable. And I have to tell you something else, Bruce, something like this is all very serious and kind of quite somber. What is really raising my spirits is how Canadians are responding to this, right? Like there has been just across the country this unanimous and spontaneous outpouring of patriotism and love for our amazing country. And Canadians are saying very clearly to our American friends and neighbors, don't push us around. if you hit us, we will hit back. We have no intention of giving up our sovereignty. And that really is why I'm running in this race, because I know I can lead that fight. And I know Canada right now needs a leader who can fight for our country, who can stand up to Trump, and has the guts and the experience to get that job done.
It's hard to imagine any other kind of situation that would inspire this kind of Canadian patriotism. But
it's good to remember how great our country is, isn't it? Like, isn't it nice?
Most of the Liberal leadership contenders want to kind of drop the carbon tax now. You defended it for years, and now you'll dump it, I guess.
I was the first leadership candidate to say I would drop the carbon tax.
Right.
The very first one. And I think that got the ball rolling. And it was the right thing to do. For me, the message that we heard clearly, and actually we heard it first here in Atlantic Canada, was that Canadians recognize that climate change is real. They want climate action, but that a consumer-facing price on carbon was not working in their lives. And I think that it is really arrogant of a government not to listen to people. So I was glad to be the first person who said that I would drop it, and I was glad when I was in government to champion excluding home heating oil.
Let's talk about housing. You've said, I think this was just today, in terms of the housing shortage, in part you're going to tie the number of new immigrants to housing availability. That kind of slows down the population growth until the housing can catch up. Pierre Poilievre, to his credit, has introduced a kind of a similar idea. So what makes your plan different, and how would it work?
Well, I think it is really important to recognize that housing is a huge challenge in the lives of Canadians, in the lives of people here in Atlantic Canada. We're here in Halifax, seeing, an extremely attractive city people want to live in, but housing is becoming unaffordable. And I think that as a government, we have to be sure that we have the homes that are affordable for Canadians to live in, for young people to start their families. And so what I would do is focus on two things. One, supply, urgently get new homes built. I also said in my housing plan that we published today that we would lift the GST on new homes for first-time home buyers, help young people get that first home of their own. And we also need to really focus on affordable housing. A lot of people here in Halifax rent. We have to be sure that there is more affordable housing, more purpose-built rental for people who live their lives that way. I'm a big fan of co-op housing too.
Freeland will